Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we'll be exploring something you probably don't think about too often.
Or, maybe ever.
Haha. Yeah, that's probably true. Today we're diving into the world of plankton.
Plankton.
Yeah. Now I know what you might be thinking.
Not exactly the most glamorous topic.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But trust me on this one, it's going to be fascinating. Plankton. These microscopic organisms drifting around in the water, they're actually responsible for a huge chunk of the oxygen we breathe.
It's true.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean a huge chunk.
Okay, so set the stage for us here.
Okay, so we're talking like 50 to 70%
Oh,
of Earth's oxygen.
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's more than all the rainforests combined.
Okay, so we've got these microscopic organisms producing more oxygen than all the rainforests.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It is. So how is that even possible? I mean, how can something so small have such a massive impact?
Well, so the key players here are phytoplankton.
Phytoplankton.
Yeah, the plant-like kind of plankton.
Okay.
And they do it through photosynthesis.
Just like plants on land.
Exactly. They use sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose.
Okay, so that's their food.
Right. And then oxygen gets released as a byproduct.
Wow. So it really is just like what plants do.
Yeah, it's the same basic process, but on a massive scale.
Okay, so help me wrap my head around this.
Sure.
We've got these teeny tiny phytoplankton doing photosynthesis, just like giant trees.
Right.
But they're producing way more oxygen.
Way more. And that comes down to a couple things. First, think about the sheer size of the oceans.
Okay, vast.
Yeah, they cover about 71% of Earth's surface.
That is a lot of space.
Right. So that's a lot of real estate for these little powerhouses to work their magic.
Okay, so lots of space.
And there are trillions upon trillions of them.
Trillions.
Oh, yeah, huge numbers. They form the base of the entire marine food web.
So they're like the foundation of everything.
Exactly. And because they're floating in the water, they have this constant access to the ingredients they need.
Sunlight, CO2, nutrients,
Like
right?
sunlight.
So these phytoplankton, they're like tiny little floating solar panels churning out oxygen nonstop.
That's a great way to put it.
So are all phytoplankton created equal in this oxygen-making business?
Well, some are definitely more productive than others.
Okay, so who are the superstars?
Diatoms are definitely up there.
Diatoms.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing.
What's so special about them?
Well, first of all, they have these intricate silica shells.
Silica. So like glass.
Exactly, almost like tiny glass houses.
Wow, that's cool.
Right, and they reproduce incredibly quickly.
Okay, so efficient and they multiply fast.
Exactly. And to give you an idea of just how productive they are,
Yeah, how much oxygen are we talking here?
well, a single diatom species can produce up to 20 million tons of oxygen per year.
Whoa. 20 million tons. That's mind-blowing.
Right. And that's just one species.
Okay, so multiply that by all the different diatom species out there.
Plus all the other types of phytoplankton.
Wow. That's a lot of oxygen.
It is. It's really hard to even grasp the scale of it all.
It makes you appreciate the little things, doesn't it?
It really does.
So basically every breath we take.
Is thanks to those invisible heroes in the ocean.
It's amazing. Really makes you think.
Yeah, it definitely highlights how vital healthy oceans are.
Not just for the creatures living there, but for all of us.
Exactly. For all life on Earth.
Speaking of healthy oceans, what happens when things start to go wrong? How do these changes impact our little phytoplankton friends?
Well, just like any living thing, they need a stable environment to thrive.
Sure, makes sense.
And unfortunately, there are a lot of things that can disrupt that balance.
Like pollution.
Exactly. Pollution can really mess things up.
How so?
Well, for example, runoff from land can introduce excess nutrients into the ocean.
So like fertilizers and things like that.
Yeah, things like that. And it can lead to these harmful algal blooms.
Algal blooms, those are bad, right?
Yeah, they can be really bad. They basically suck up all the oxygen and create what are known as dead zones.
Dead zones. That sounds ominous.
They are. These are areas where oxygen levels are so low that marine life just can't survive.
Wow, so it's like suffocating a part of the ocean.
That's a good way to put it. And often the culprits are things like agricultural runoff.
And sewage.
Yeah,
So
unfortunately.
it's not just what happens directly in the ocean.
Right.
Even our actions on land, far from the coast, they can have these ripple effects.
Absolutely. And then, of course, there's climate change.
Yeah, that's the big one.
It's one of the biggest threats facing our oceans today.
And I'm guessing it's not good news for phytoplankton.
Not really. Rising sea temperatures and ocean acidification are creating a pretty hostile environment.
For a lot of marine creatures, including phytoplankton.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
So we were talking about climate change and how it impacts our little phytoplankton buddies.
Right. It's not good news.
Yeah, so how exactly does it create problems for them?
Well, one way is through rising sea temperatures.
Okay. Makes sense. Warmer water.
Yeah, but it's more than just the temperature itself. It causes the ocean to stratify.
Stratify. What does that mean?
Basically, it means that the different layers of water don't mix as well as they used to.
So like oil and water, they separate.
Kind of. And that's a problem because the nutrients that phytoplankton need, they often get trapped in those deeper, colder layers.
Oh, so they can't reach the surface.
Yeah, where the sunlight is.
Where they need to be to photosynthesize.
Exactly. It's like cutting off their food supply.
Wow, that's rough. And then there's ocean acidification.
Right. That's the other big problem.
So as the ocean absorbs more CO2,
Becomes more acidic.
and that's bad for
Well, it's especially bad for organisms like those diatoms we talked about.
the ones with the glass houses.
Right. They need specific minerals to build those shells.
And the acid makes it harder for them to do that.
Exactly. So climate change is kind of a double whammy for phytoplankton.
Yeah, limiting their nutrients and making it harder to build their homes.
It's tough out there for a phytoplankton.
I've read that some types of phytoplankton might actually do better in warmer water.
That's true.
Is that a potential silver lining, or is it more complicated than that?
It's definitely more complicated. Some species might benefit, but it's not a simple equation.
Because things are changing so fast.
Exactly. The rapid pace of climate change doesn't allow for gradual adaptation.
So we're seeing these shifts in species composition.
Right. Some types decline while others proliferate.
So it's not just about the overall amount of phytoplankton.
Right.
It's about the diversity of species.
Exactly. Just like biodiversity is crucial for a healthy forest.
Or grassland.
Yeah, it's equally important in the ocean.
Different species have different roles.
Exactly. Some are better at absorbing certain nutrients, others are more efficient at converting sunlight into energy.
So having a variety of species makes the whole system more resilient.
Precisely.
So kind of like a well-balanced investment portfolio.
I like that analogy.
Got to have a mix of assets to weather the storms.
Exactly. It's all about understanding the complex web of interactions within the ocean ecosystem.
So how do scientists even keep track of all these different types of phytoplankton?
Well, they've got some pretty amazing tools.
Like what?
One of the most powerful is satellite imagery.
Wait, we can see phytoplankton from space?
We can. Satellites can actually measure chlorophyll levels in the ocean.
Wow, so we can see how much phytoplankton there is on a global scale.
Pretty cool, huh?
That's incredible. What else?
Well, there are also underwater drones.
Like little robots.
Exactly. They can collect data on phytoplankton populations.
So they're measuring things like temperature, salinity, nutrient levels?
All of that. It's a really active area of research.
It makes sense. This is important stuff.
It is. And the technology is constantly evolving.
Oh, what else are they using?
Well, scientists are also using DNA sequencing.
To identify different species.
Yeah, and understand how they're related.
So it helps paint a clearer picture of the whole ecosystem.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about how vital phytoplankton are the challenges they're facing.
And the amazing research that's going on.
But let's talk about what we can do to help.
Yeah, what can we do to protect these little guys?
Because it feels like we're talking about something so vast.
The ocean is huge.
Do our individual actions even matter?
They absolutely do.
Okay, good to hear. So what can we do?
Well, one of the biggest things is reducing our carbon footprint.
Yeah, that comes up a lot.
It's important. So things like driving less.
Using public transport, biking, walking.
Exactly. And being mindful of our energy use at home.
Okay, so reducing our impact on climate change.
Right, that's a big one.
Okay, so cutting back on carbon, that's a big one.
It is.
What else can we do?
Well, being mindful of what we put into our water system.
Our water systems.
Yeah. Think about it. Everything that goes down the drain or gets dumped into the environment.
It all ends up in the ocean eventually.
Exactly. So reducing our use of plastics.
Single-use plastic.
Yeah. And making sure we're disposing of hazardous waste properly.
Okay, so like batteries and things like that.
Yeah, all that stuff.
And even choosing those phosphate-free detergents.
Right. Those little things can actually make a difference.
It's easy to forget about those everyday choices.
Yeah, they can have far-reaching consequences.
It seems like every time we talk about the environment
It comes back to consumption.
and waste.
Yeah, being mindful of what we're using and where it ends up.
So it's not just about what we put in our cars.
Right. It's about all aspects of our lives.
What about sustainable fishing practices?
Oh, that's a big one, too.
How does that tie into phytoplankton?
Well, overfishing can disrupt the balance of the food web.
And that has cascading effects on the whole ecosystem.
Exactly. Including phytoplankton.
So choosing seafood that's been caught or farmed responsibly.
It's a good way to support healthy oceans.
So we're talking about being conscious consumers, both in what we buy.
And what we eat.
Okay, so making informed choices. What else can listeners do?
Sometimes the simplest thing is the most powerful.
What's that?
Just talking about it.
Spreading the word.
Yeah. Tell your friends and family about what you've learned.
Share articles, support organizations working to protect the oceans.
And don't forget about your elected officials.
Yeah, let them know we care about this stuff.
Exactly.
So it's not just about individual actions.
It's about raising awareness.
And creating a ripple effect.
Exactly.
So we've talked about how vital phytoplankton are.
The challenges they're facing.
What we can do to help.
But there's one more thing I think it's important to remember.
What's that?
We still have so much to learn about plankton.
Really? But we've learned so much today.
We have, but there are still so many unanswered questions.
Like what?
Well, there are new species being discovered all the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And scientists are always uncovering new insights into how the ocean works.
So we're just scratching the surface.
I think so.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
It is. This whole microscopic world teeming with life and secrets yet to be revealed.
So we need to keep learning more.
Absolutely. Not only to protect them,
but also to understand the potential benefits they hold. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of plankton, what's the one big takeaway?
I think it's this. Even though they're invisible to the naked eye.
They're absolutely vital.
Yeah. To life on Earth, they're responsible for the air we breathe.
The food we eat.
And the health of our planet.
So we need to protect them.
We do.
Well said. So next time you take a deep breath, remember to thank those invisible heroes.
Plankton.
And remember, even small actions can make a big difference when it comes to protecting our oceans.
And the incredible life that thrives within them.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.